Do you think that eventually over the next 5 years, we are going to revert to mean growth, and that our mean growth is maybe 5%, 6%, nothing more than that? How do you view that?
So I think that if you look at the current context, what I say very clearly is this, that are still suffering from a massive anchoring bias. And what do I mean by an anchoring bias? Which is that because the Indian economy grew in the 1990s and particularly in the 2000s at a very rapid pace, we keep thinking that that is the right benchmark in terms of what our potential growth rate is. And
Hmm.
I show both in the book and also in my subsequent research work that there is virtually no economy in the world today that is growing at a pace of, let's say, more than 7%, a growth rate that we thought was virtually our birthright a few years ago. And last year, even before this pandemic obviously hit, there were hardly any economies in the world that were registering a growth rate of more than 7%. Now, in the 2000s, let's say, take the year at the peak of the boom in 2007, there were nearly 40 economies in the world that were registering a growth rate of more than 7% a year. Uh, there were plenty more that were growing at a rate of more than 5%. Now we're in an era where, because of some of the forces that you discussed, including declining population growth rates and also in declining productivity because of misallocation of capital, given asset price inflation, rising income inequality, rising debt levels, and also factors such as deglobalization, the trend growth rate for the global economy is a lot lower than it used to be, possibly around 2.5% compared to the 4% that we grew every year between 1950 and 2008, at least on average. So that's a huge step down for the global economy, what the average growth rate is. Now, for countries in India's income class, which is a per capita income of less than $5,000, I think that a growth rate of anything above 5% should be considered a significant achievement because of these dynamics from depopulation to deglobalization. So I think that the right benchmark for India's growth rate going forward is possibly 5%. And if India can grow at a rate of more than 5%, I would consider that to be a significant achievement. Whereas a few years ago, if we were having this interview, I would say at least 7% should have been India's benchmark for economic success. But in today's global economic environment, a growth rate of even 5% for India's per capita income of just under $3,000 would be a significant achievement. Now, sure, if we carry out huge reforms and which unleash productivity like China did in the 80s and 90s, we may be able to grow at well above 5%. I just don't see the signs for that. So, assuming we keep getting some incremental reform, and given the global economic environment, I think the Indian economy will be lucky to grow at a rate of more than 5% on average this decade.